This guy is called Seko Silas, and Seko blew up on our television screens for allegedly scamming millions from churchgoers. To tell the story, this time I will be using illustrative images because there is not much imagery available in this case. Now, Seko is an apostle, or a pastor if you will, a prosperity gospel pastor for that matter. He has a church that is called Rotham Campus Royal Family International Church. It is situated in Uasin Gishu, Eldoret in Kenya. Now Seko has a problem. Maybe he feels the church is not bringing in cash as he expected it to because he decides to start an investment scheme. To be fair, multiple income streams are recommended in this economy. So Apostle Seko goes ahead and opens an investment company called De La Vie Consult Company. And it was an investment company promising its investors 30% returns every month. So Seko goes to his church and tells his congregation about this wonderful investment opportunity. Definitely, these were very crazy returns, never heard of before. So to convince them, he goes ahead and tells them that De La Vie is not just any other investment company. No, it was a godly investment, and anyone who trusts in it will sit back and watch their money grow miraculously. And the congregation believes in miracle. I mean, perhaps they've seen him do one or two in his church. So miraculous money growth did not seem far-fetched. So the congregation is thrilled and they are all in this deal. After all, who wouldn't believe their pastor? Like, he's a spiritual leader who speaks of prosperity as a divine right. This was a man who seemed to embody every blessing that he preached about. Like many prosperity pastors, he was rich and everybody wanted to be as prosperous as him. So when he shows them the way to wealth creation, they believe it. And so the congregation starts investing. Individuals, families, even entire communities pulled resources together and trusting their hard-earned money to this scheme. In fact, a bunch of church members become devoted to rallying their peers, and together they raise 1.8 million Kenya shillings, which they invest in this scheme. Another member invests 4.6 million Kenya shillings, some of which came from loans and family assets. And this is a pattern that continued to replicate itself as so many other members invest huge amounts, like in the millions. At first, everything is legitimate. The returns were real. Monthly payouts were 30% and were delivered on time as promised, creating a wave of testimonials and further cementing Seko's reputation and the gospel of spiritual wealth creation as true and valid. So it became tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend kind of thing. And since people can see how the first investors were earning good cash, everybody wanted a piece of this spiritual money. Now, here's the thing though. De La Vie Consult was not an isolated operation. It was a network meticulously crafted to instill trust and lure in unsuspecting investors, allegedly. Apostle Seko clearly leveraged his position as a man of God to blur the lines between faith and finance. So, the congregation members were not just his followers, they were his sales force, unwittingly recruiting new victims through word of mouth. Now, what the investors were oblivious about is that such high returns are not sustainable, and Seko's business model was basically a pyramid scheme. This is where the first investors' money were paid with the funds of the new investors. Then those investors get paid with the money the newer entrants are putting into the investment firm, and the cycle continues. Obviously, this was a classic snake oil salesmanship strategy to a Ponzi scheme. At around December 2023, the facade crumbles. Payments stopped suddenly without reason, and the once accessible Apostle Seko becomes a ghost. He vanishes into thin air. The congregation was left wondering and confused. Very soon, they came to the realization that he had run away, and people who were once investors quickly got to know that they were played. This was a scam, and they all fell for it. Family relationships were strained, especially those who brought other family members or used family assets to invest. We are talking about scenarios where some victims lamented that they invested not just their own money, but also their parents' life savings and some even in-laws' title deeds. So obviously, this news blew up, and immediately the media jumped into action to get at the bottom of this scam. At this point, Pastor Seko is still in hiding, but after pushing and chasing, the media finally got a small response from him. And what he had to say just added fuel into the fire.
These people, De La Vie has been feeding them. These people, De La Vie has been their major source of income. You can never bite a hand that feeds you. Can never urinate on the plate that you're supposed to eat from.
This was very dismissive given how unbearable the betrayal was for his followers. They believed in him. Well, he went ahead to claim that De La Vie was experiencing a rough patch, so people should be patient as he sorts the matter out. Of course, nobody was buying it, and the victims, along with other concerned citizens, go to the streets to protest and demand justice. The investors filed complaints to the police, told their stories to the news, sought legal recourse, formed support groups, and even movements to help each other cope. But we are talking about the Kenyan justice system, so like you're all guessing, there were no arrests done. An interesting twist to this story is the reaction of the general public. They actually thought this news were hilarious because it's not the first time Eldoret residents have been scammed. So at this point, the internet was wondering why they keep falling for scams. In some cases, some people seemed indifferent to scam stories coming out of Eldoret because it seemed like a pattern at this point. While Apostle Seko's victims struggled to pick up the pieces, he remained elusive. It is said that he is allegedly yet to pay the victims. But what we know for a fact is that his church is still going strong. It is without a doubt that he is healthy and very unbothered, enjoying all that spiritual money.